Hi everyone, welcome to my happy spot. Today I'm going to share a very basic crazy patch technique with you, and because like I said before, I don't like you to learn something and then you're stuck with this little piece of fabric and you don't know what to do with it. I thought we'd make this shopping bag. Well, not make the shopping bag, but have a way of making it easier to use. So I bought this basic shopping bag. I decided on a size which was the size of that piece of paper, which is actually a page out of our local telephone book, one of the old telephone books. I then cut a piece of black fabric because I made this one into a pocket. It doesn't have to be, you could just stitch it down. It doesn't have to even be lined. It could have just been, had edges turned over and stitched down, but I wanted a pocket, so I've cut this piece of lining. We are encouraged not to use our plastic bags and to be more eco-friendly, so it's good to make these bags. The next thing I did was I selected a whole bunch of fabrics that I thought I might like to use. They're out of my scrap bin, which I keep next to my sewing machine. I have all these little projects going, and as I go along I'll share with you, just because we end up with scraps, endless scraps that we don't know what to do with. So that was the selection I pulled out of there. I cut this random shape out of a piece of fabric that was in my scrap bin as well, and actually this is one of the future videos I'll be doing, or rather a series of videos on how to create your own fabrics out of your scraps. So I cut that shape out of there, and I'm going to put that somewhere on my piece of paper to start me off. I'm going to take my little shape and place it maybe over there and pin it. Right. Now, let me just find something that might work on there. There, let's try that one. I don't normally pin, but I'm going to pin. You need to be sure each time that the fabric that you're stitching on is in the correct position, so that when you turn it over, it will give you a straight edge on which to stitch, and that will. Because what I'm going to do after I've stitched it on, I'm going to put my ruler on there, and I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to draw a line, right? So that little piece of fabric is perfect. So let's stitch that one on first. Now my little piece underneath wasn't cut straight. I'm using the one that is cut straight as my sewing guide. And let's iron it back. Is this just not the sweetest little iron? My granddaughter, who's 18 now, used to just love this little iron when she was little. Right. Take my and you know, I'm using a ballpoint pen here. I'm going to be cutting it off anyway, so that it just makes it easier to see. And I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Right, I can now continue going that way, or I could go this way. You know, I could go all the way around my shape, or I could go in one direction. It really doesn't matter what I do. The other thing I must just say that I did do beforehand is that some of my strips that I pulled out of the scrap bag were basically the same width, so I stitched a few little pieces in. I know I've got another one here. We'll find it as we go along, but that was one of them. I think what I'm going to do next is go this way. Let's take that one. Oh no, awful. How about that one? Now, if I audition this and I take it that way, I can just actually start stitching on the edge here. And I'm going to stitch obviously down to there. What you can do is keep some pages in a drawer or in a box or something, and on days when you really don't know what to do, or you just want to stitch, you can stitch a block and put it in your box, back in your box, and stitch a block the next day, and no time at all you will be able to put something together. I'm now going to iron that back. Draw my line. Cut the excess off. Now there's actually something else that works really well. Let's just find some a strip, a really nice wide strip. If I don't have to keep putting straight bits on or even sew along that line just because it's there. If I do this, but let's first see well, it doesn't matter, we're on the edge up there, but you would just make sure that you'd be able to draw a straight line. And what I'm going to do when I stitch this one, I'm going to turn it even more, I'm going to stitch it down to about there. As I do this one, you'll understand where I'm going with this one. Right. Let's iron that back. Now by doing that, I can take my fabric in a fan. We can take the next one, but I think we need to get rid of this one first. This extra bit. I'm going to get rid of this as well. You can always clean it up with your rotary cutter afterwards. Right. Let's do it with another shape. Let's use this bit. I'm going to do that. Now the idea of working on the page, the thing to remember is you either start in the center or somewhere in a central area and you work your way out, or you have to work from one side to the other or that way, or you need to work from one corner to the other. You cannot obviously come in from the outside and work your way in, because you're going to end up with a hole in the middle. Right, there we go. Let's draw our line. Now, as I said, I did take strips that were kind of the same width, and I joined them. Oh yeah, here's one. That joined to that, joined to that, and I could now put this in somewhere. That back, and you're going to have this tiny little strip, but now obviously that's not very straight. The next piece we'll just make sure the next one is, and so you carry on. I would perhaps take a piece like this, stitch that on. Obviously then from here I start drawing with my ruler, and I'm going that way, and in that way I fill up this page with the pieced bits. This one here was one I did using, I found this little square in my box, and I thought the bee might be quite fun to have on my bag. So I started with a bee, and I went that way and I went that way, and then I went that way using my wider strips but stitching them narrow to one side. I then went from here, I went out that way, I then went out that way, and that was the last piece I put on. Once I've done that and I've got my page covered, I then took my lining. Now, if you look at the bag, the handles are up there. This is the pocket part, and we are going to draw a curve on one side. You obviously, when you're carrying your bag, it would be a good idea to have my little bee showing up the right way. So this is the part that's going to stay straight. This is the part I'm going to curve. Simply did that, folded it in half. Just a very gentle curve, nothing big. We've got a bit of a bump there, let's get rid of it. It's about there. We need a smoother, there we go, that's perfect. Put it down on my black fabric, and I stitched. I left the opening at the top, and I just stitched all the way around back to there, and so that I had this opening. I snipped the corners off, and on this curve I just cut a few notches to make sure that it didn't bunch when I turned it, and I turned it inside out. I then used variegated thread, and I stitched just on the pocket part, obviously, I stitched all the way around, and I stitched about, this ends up about being just over 9 inches, just over 9 inches. So this is 6 inches, and that was the remainder. And I stitch a line, I draw and stitch a line across there. I then stitch the Velcro on, soft side on at the top here, simply because if you're carrying the bag, you also, if you're wearing something, it could catch on your clothing or whatever. So the softer side of the Velcro is there, the scratchy side underneath. And I placed it on my bag. Measured that this was basically equal measurements, and here the same thing, equal measurements. And when I stitched it onto the bag, I obviously wanted this bit loose, so I just, and because it's a pocket, you wouldn't stitch here. So then I just stitched there and there and there. Hand stitched my Velcro on there, a button on just for show, I guess, and that's it. When you fold the bag, this is what you're trying to achieve. You are going to fold in the sides, or maybe it would be better to bring those in. Fold in the sides. There's the side of your patch showing out. That goes there, that goes in, that goes in, and that goes in and in again. So it gives you an idea, if you're doing it on another bag, how to work out, and you need to be able to close it like that. And there we go. And if you do big shops, you can obviously just have a few of these in one other bag, and you are eliminating that armload of bags that you need to go into the shop with. Easy as that. As I said at the beginning of the video, we tend to end up going to the mall with all these bags strung over our arm, and it is just so much easier to be able to pop these into one bag when you do your shopping. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to subscribe if you'd like to be notified of future videos.